Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Vishnupad Pranamahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar Tata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar Tata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 13th day of September 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're in chapter 6 entitled Dhyana-yoga. And we're on text number 31 at the bottom of page 283. Sarvabhutastitam yomam, sarvabhutastitam yomam, bhajatye kartvamastitaham, bhajatye kartvamastitaham, sarvata vartamanopi, sayogi mahivartate, sayogi mahivartate, sarvabhutastitam yomam, bhajatye kartvamastitaham, bhajatye kartvamastitaham, sarvata vartamanopi, vartamanopi sarvata vartamanopi sayogi mahi vartate sayogi mahi vartate sarvabhutastitang yo mam sarvabhutastitang yo mam bhajatye katvamastitaham bhajatye katvamastitaham sarvata vartamanopi sarvata vartamanopi sayogi mahi vartate sayogi mahi vartate. Word by words. Sarvabhuta stitam, situated in everyone's heart. Yaha, he who, mam, me, bhajati, serves in devotional service. Ekatvam, in oneness. Astitaha, situated. Sarvata, in all respects. Vartamanaha, being situated. Api, in spite of. Saha, he, yogi, the transcendentalist. Mahi, in me, vartate, remains. Translation. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Supersoul, knowing that I and the Supersoul within all creatures are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. Purport. A yogi who is practicing meditation on the Supersoul sees within himself the plenary portion of Krishna as Vishnu, with 4 hands holding conch shell, wheel, club, and lotus flower. The yogi should know that Vishnu is not different from Krishna. Krishna in this form of Supersoul is situated in everyone's heart. Furthermore, there is no difference between the innumerable Supersouls present in the innumerable hearts of living entities. Nor is there a difference between a Krishna-conscious person always engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the Supersoul. The yogi in Krishna consciousness, even though he may be engaged in various activities while in material existence, remains always situated in Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.187 of Srila Rupa Goswami. Nikalashrapyavastasu jivan mukta sauchite. A devotee of the Lord, always acting in Krishna consciousness, is automatically liberated. In the Narada Pancharatra, this is confirmed in this way. Dikkhaladyanabachinne Krishne cheto vidayacha tanmayo bhavati chipram jivo brahmani yojayet. Page 284. By concentrating one's attention on the transcendental form of Krishna, who is all-pervading and beyond time and space, one becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna and then attains the happy state of transcendental association with him. Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. This very understanding that Krishna is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart makes the yogi faultless. The Vedas, Gopal-tapani Upanishad 121, confirm this inconceivable potency of the Lord as follows. Ekopisan bahudayo vabhati. Although the Lord is one, he is present in innumerable hearts as many. Similarly, in the Smriti Shastra, the Matsya Purana, it is said, Eka eva paro Vishnu sarvavyapi nasangshayaha aishvaryad rupam ekam cha suryavat bahudeyate. Vishnu is one, and yet he is certainly all-pervading. By his inconceivable potency, in spite of his one form, he is present everywhere, as the sun appears in many places at once. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, Krishna is continuing to describe the realized yogi. In the previous verse, we had this famous verse, Yogam Pashyati Sarvatra Sarvam Shamai Pashyati Tatsaham Na Pranashyami. Sachame Na Pranashyati, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. And today's verse, such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Supersoul, knowing that I and the Supersoul within all creatures are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. So this remaining always in me and always seeing the Lord means that one is always in tune with the desires of the Lord. Because as soon as we want to enjoy separately, then we're covered. Maya covers our consciousness. We forget. This is how we came here. We wanted to enjoy separately, and so we had to forget Krishna. And then we came to this material world and tried to be the enjoyers and the controllers. And because in this material world, we can't really be the supreme controller and the enjoyer. We're given this material body to have a little poor reflection facsimile of that. Unfortunately, our attempts to enjoy and attempts to survive are always thwarted. And everything comes to an end, and it's just a hard struggle for existence. And if we don't have any connection with Krishna, then we'll very well lose the human form of life, and off we go into the rounds of birth and death. So this is the process. This is one of the ways, this Dhyana-yoga, of purifying the consciousness to come to the point of always remembering Krishna in the heart as the Supersoul. In the Brahma Samhita, we hear the same thing about this seeing, the vision changes. This famous verse, Premanjana, Chudita Bhakti Vilochanena, Santa Sadaiva Didiyeshu Pilokayanti Yang Shyama Sundadama Chindugana Surupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Krishna is very responsive to the desires of his sincere devotees. As he says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatama papadyante, tam sataiva bhajamiham. As they surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. So even this particular verse from the Brahma Samhita says that those whose eyes are anointed with the salve of love, of prema, they see Krishna, Shyama Sundar, within the heart. They don't see the four-handed form. Even though the Supersoul is there, but Krishna appears in his original form there, because that's what the devotee is worshipping, that's what he wants to see. The yogis, they want to see the four-handed form, and they generally have what they call Shanta Ras, which is a peaceful ras. It's a preliminary to the actual entry into bhakti. Bhakti begins with Dasya Ras. But Shanta Ras is also very exalted. The qualities are that one never forgets Krishna, is completely satisfied with thinking of God in that way, and has no attraction for the material energy. But you're not engaged in an active service. It's simply your service is just remembering God. And that's more or less what we're talking about here. Dhyana-yoga means full absorption, samadhi, and thinking of the Supersoul within. But the bhakta can also have that kind of consciousness by thinking of Krishna within, thinking of the Supersoul, of the Shyama Sundar. And that's described in this Premanjana verse. So, but at this point in the 6th chapter, Krishna is still describing the qualities of the realized devotee. He began this in 20 to 23, which I always was taken with, because it really describes pretty much the qualities of the pure devotee who's always experiencing ecstasy. This perfection is characterized. This perfection means samadhi, complete absorption in thought of the Lord. When the mind is completely disciplined, when the yogi by practice of yoga disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. And it's described earlier that that's through meditation on Krishna in the heart. And what is the result of that? This perfection, samadhi, complete absorption, is characterized by one's ability to see the self, cap self, the Supersoul, by the pure mind, and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So, then Krishna is describing, but it's not so easy to get there. One has to be very determined, gradually, step by step. One progresses from wherever the mind wanders, bring it back. This is X26. And if one is successful, then his mind is fixed on me. He verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. So he's back to describing that state.
And then in 28, the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination, achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness and transcendental loving service to the Lord. Brahma Sangsparsham means contact with the Supreme. And then the verse that we read yesterday, the one before it, yogi observes me in all beings, also sees everything being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the Supreme Lord, everywhere. And the one who sees me everywhere sees everything in me. I'm never lost as he never lost to me. And that's explained in the last paragraph. At this stage, Lord Krishna never loses sight of the devotee, nor does the devotee ever lose sight of the Lord. So Krishna is always watching over us, and we're never forgetting him. And how is that? We see, whatever we see the Krishna behind it. It's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that a pure devotee who's saturated with Krishna consciousness, he sees a tree, but he doesn't exactly see the tree. He sees Krishna behind the tree, that this is Krishna's energy, and he's the super soul inside the tree. So to see everything in relation with God, it's to sacralize your vision. That's part of what's being spoken of here. And the pure devotees practicing pure bhakti always see that way also. Bhajajaya. So this is, yes, such a yogi engaged in the worshipful service of the Supersoul, knowing that I and the Supersoul within all creatures are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. So it sounds very attractive, but it's very difficult to attain. And Arjuna will complain in a few verses that he doesn't think it's possible for him, that his mind is too agitated. Because it all starts with the discipline of the mind. The mind, how to make the mind one's friend rather than the enemy. We're all living with our worst enemy. The mind, which is saturated with desires to enjoy this material world, then it demands service. We're not the mind. That mind is demanding us to serve. And if we have no other standing, spiritual standing, then we must serve the mind. And that's what's going on, and that's what conditioned life means. Okay, go ahead. Now we got a problem there. You can put one together. No one's taking care of the batteries. I turned this thing on, it was red. The brown one was red.
This one works for now.
There you go.
Hare Krishna.
And it's green?
Yeah.
Good. That one would be red. You only have one battery left? No, it's underneath the book stand. It's there. But you'll see it'll be red. Now why don't we trade? Because
this one is for class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol, Arjun.
So Prabhu, like when Krishna showed the universal form, right, in during the battlefield, in the battlefield. So while growing up, I learned Vishnu, Narayan, is the supreme. Yeah, but I also knew that Krishna was the one who showed the universal form, and I believe even Lord Vishnu, Narayan maybe was a part of that form, because all the demigods, everything, Lord Shiva, everything was in that universal form. So why there is a lot of things, even in India, we say Lord Vishnu is the supreme, but Krishna is also. And a lot of people ask me when I go out, because they ask me this question, who is the God? Is it Lord Vishnu or is it Lord Krishna? It's sometimes very hard for me to answer them, because I myself am confused. Yeah.
Yeah. The answer is, of course, Krishna says right in the Bhagavad Gita, and he's speaking to Arjuna in his form as Krishna, right? He says, Mattak Pardhanang Nanyat Kinchadasti Dhanandeya. Means there's no being, there's no entity greater than me. Everything is strung on me like pearls are strung on a thread. And really, the Bhagavad Gita is introductory work. And then we have the Vedanta Sutra, which is understood to be the essence of all, Vedanta. It's the ultimate knowledge. But the commentary on the Bhagavad Gita by the same author, to really explain it in detail, is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, it's explained without a doubt that Krishna is supreme. There's what is called the Paribhasa Sutra, which is like a foundational phrase or line in every shastra that the whole philosophy that's presented is built on. And when you get to the chapter 3 of the first canto, there's a list of avatars. You know, the Leela avatars are there, Matsya and Kurma and Nrsimha, like that. And Krishna is among them. Krishna and Balaram, they're listed there as Leela avatars. But then at the end of the whole thing, 1.3.28, I believe is the verse. Say, Ete changsa kalapungsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. That all of these different manifestations of Krishna, of God, are either partial or plenary expansions of Krishna. But Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, that Krishna himself is, Krishna is Bhagavan himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we, you know, and the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we accept Lord Chaitanya as Krishna, and that his followers are presenting the full philosophy of the Vedas, and giving the ultimate line to show that Krishna is supreme. You ever hear this thing with the different qualities? That you have the living entity, who's part and parcel of Krishna, can have 50 There's batteries inside that closet. Hare Krishna. So it's described there. We share 50 of, of course, our possession of them is minute. But, you know, ayang neta suram yanga sarva salakshananvita ruchitas tejasayukto baliyan vayasanvata. This is describing Krishna's first 5 or 6 qualities. Suram yanga, most beautiful. You know, now we can have, you know, we can think there are certain human beings who are very beautiful, you know, young and beautiful. But it's, the beauty that they possess is just a fraction and temporary compared to Krishna's beauty. He has it in infinite degree. He has all auspicious markings on his body, you know, there's 32 places. Ruchiras, Tejasa, very powerful, influential, Yukta, Baliyan, strong. And they go, list 50 of them. And we possess them to a certain degree, can possess them. But then there's 5 that living entities don't possess, but that Lord Shiva can possess. And Ata panchagunesha angshena gajisarasu sada swarupa sampabha sarvagyo nityanuktanak satchidananda sanranga sarvasiddhi nishevita. And one of them, he's always in his constitutional position, in his swarup form, and we're not like that. And it goes on, and then it says, and then there are 5 that even Shiva can't possess, but that the Vishnus can possess, especially the Mahavishnu, you know, creating universes and all this. And then there's 4 that only Krishna possesses. The flute, the wonderful pastimes like with the gopis, Lila Kallol Atulya Marada Prema, Mandita Priya Mandala, Tridigan Manasakarshi, the flute sound. He can attract the whole 3 worlds with that flute. Asamanordva Rupa Shri, an unequaled and unsurpassed beauty and opulence. So this is how you have to see. What is does Vishnu have the exuberance of those Leela with the gopis and the other thing? No, he doesn't have. You know, Vishnu is in Vaikuntha. He's 4 arms and he's worshipable and is full of bliss. All of the residents there have the 4 arms, you know. It's a whole different thing. The Dasya Ras is prominent. There's no Sakya Ras there. There's no parental Ras. No one thinks of Vishnu as their child. So when we examine, you know, the comparison, and we understand, well, what is, who is really, you know, manifesting the most attractiveness and the most exuberance of Leela, and who can reciprocate and does reciprocate with however one wants to worship him. That's Krishna. It's ultimately Krishna. So, and we have to, you know, accept that. And Krishna explains here, that I am, before there was anything, there was I existed before everything. There's no manifestation greater than I am. And try to understand that. that Krishna has everything that Vishnu has, but he also has these exuberant pastimes in all these various details and this all attractive nature and the flute sound and all these things. So that's it. Yes, Michael. Go ahead.
Does he not have?
Oh, it doesn't. Neither one works.
I think one of them works. Yeah. Look at the green one. The green one definitely doesn't work.
Well,
Okay,
so
Can you go in there and load them up? You know, this is better.
doesn't Krishna, in his own way, direct and indirect, reveal himself through his pastimes?
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to say, I am superior to Vishnu if you read the pastimes. Isn't it obvious? That he is the supreme?
It's obvious to us because
That other people?
the thing is, people tend to, they don't understand that the variety of lila and rasa and mellows that are available with Krishna make him superior to Vishnu, because Vishnu is the power, the majesty, all of that.
There was anything equal to or close to? Is there something close to?
No.
Is Vishnu close to?
Well, he's not close in the terms of the pastimes, in terms of all those four special qualities. Yeah. But the thing is, it's easy to try to, if you don't understand what's really great, and that Krishna, this is why the 11th chapter is there, because Krishna is the one who manifested the universal form, and that kind of ruined Arjun's mood. He became awestruck and scared. In other words, he wasn't thinking this. He didn't have a fraternal relationship,
Right.
you know. So really, it's the supremacy of rasa that determines who is supreme. That's what we're looking for, because that's what we really want. We can have our awe and reverence for eternity with Narayan, and those who want that, they'll have to be satisfied with that. But comparatively speaking, impartial, the ananda, the bliss that the friends of Krishna enjoy in playing with him on an equal level, forgetting he's God, that makes Krishna superior, more attractive. You know,
Yep.
it's the thing in bhakti. You have to understand. All right, we are moving along, and we did 31, right? Okay. Text 32. Atmapamyena sarvatra
Atmopanyaya sarvatra
samam pashyati yojana
samam pashyati yojana
sukham va yadi va dukkham
sukham va yadi va dukkham
sayogi paramo mataha.
sayogi paramo mata.
He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress, O Arjuna. Purport. One who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience. The cause of the distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. And the cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer of all the activities of the human being, the proprietor of all lands and planets, and the sincerest friend of all living entities. The perfect yogi knows that the living being who is conditioned by the modes of material nature is subjected to the threefold material miseries due to forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna. And because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious, he is the best philanthropist in the world, and he is the dearest servitor of the Lord. Nata tasman manushyesu kaschin me priyakritamaha. Bhagavad Gita 1869. In other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities, and in this way he is factually the friend of everyone. He is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit, but tries for others also. He does not envy his fellow living entities. Here is a contrast between a pure devotee of the Lord and a yogi interested only in his personal elevation. The yogi who has withdrawn to a secluded place in order to meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as a devotee who is trying his best to turn every man toward Krishna consciousness. So this is very prominently poured out in the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj to Lord Nrsingadev. Two key verses for the mood of Lord Chaitanya's mission, where Prahlad Maharaj, who has been saved by Nrsingadev and shown his equipoise when he was being attacked by his father. He just kept meditating. He was in samadhi the whole time. And like Haridas Thakur, he didn't feel anything, even though he's being attacked by, elephants and trying to chop him up, boil him in oil. So he's just absorbed. And then at the end of it all, he offers these prayers, and near the end of the prayers, he offers these two famous prayers, which are very pertinent to this verse, and that is Naivod Vijay Padadoratya Vaitaranyas Tvadvirya Gayana Mahamrita Magna Chittaha Shorcetato Vimukachetasa Indriyata Maya Sukhaya Banamudbhato Vimudhan. He says, I am not at all disturbed. He began his instructions to his father. His father asked him, what did you learn today, Prahlad? He had no idea that he had been instructed by Narada Muni. And Prahlad shocks him with this bhakti verse. He says, Tat sadhamanye asuravaryadehinam sadasamudvignadiyam asadgrahat hit patmapatam griyamandakupam vanam gato yadhadamashriyeta. The word sadhu means different things. Of course, sadhu means a saint, it means a devotee. But as an adjective, it means the best, relevant. That's why you'll sometimes see some devotee, has a great kirtan or does something wonderful, and the devotees say, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now, for years I thought, they're praising him as a sadhu, and they probably are in their own mind. That's what they. But really, that means bravo, bravo, great, wonderful. So here, his father wanted to know what's the best thing you learned, and sadhu means the best. The best thing I learned, oh father, but he doesn't call him father. He calls him asuravarya, best of the demons. He's talking to his own father fearlessly. This is his truth to power. Tat sadhamanya, the best thing I learned, Father, in my opinion, is best for whom? Prabhupada said, for the living entity in general, not just for me. The best thing I learned for all living entities in this material world. Tat sadhamanya sodavayadena sada, who are some udvigna. He's saying naiv udvijay, the same word as udvija, means disturbed, in anxiety. And in this first verse, Prabhupada says, he said, for those who are always disturbed in this material world, there's never really, everyone's always in anxiety. What's going to happen next? Even if you're sitting peacefully under a tree in a picnic, there's always that thought, what's going to happen next? Am I going to, I'm going to be able to make the rent? And so, sada samudvigna diyam asadgrahat, those who are always disturbed in their mind. Why a sadgrahat? Because they're holding on to the impermanent, as if it were real. As if it were permanent, but it's not. So what's the Prahlad's recommendation? He says, Hitvatma patam griyamandakupam, you should give up this blind well of materialistic household life, which impedes or stops the progress of the soul. Hitva atma patam, give it up, and go to the forest, Vrindavan forest, and take shelter of Lord Hari. Now, Hiranyakashipu, he's a demon, so he always hates the Lord, but he hated him even more because he killed his brother, Hiranyaksha. Varaha had already killed Hiranyaksha. There was this pastime where the earth sank down into the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean, and Krishna had to appear as a Leela avatar to bring it up. So he appeared in the appropriate form, the boar, huge boar, with a big horn that he could dig down in there and bring up the earth. And he did it. And then Hiranyaksha was harassing him as he took up. And it was very dramatic in the third canto. And then there was this battle, for the earth. So of course he got killed. So Hiranyakashipu, he was his arch enemy. Now he hated Vishnu like anything. So the last thing he wanted to hear, that his dear son was preaching to him as a bhakta. Give it all up, father, and take shelter of Hari. What is this? But of course he was just a little boy, so he didn't blame them, he blamed the teachers. He looked, with his fierce at Shanda and Amarka, who was teachers. So we didn't teach him this. You know the story, he was taught in the womb by Narada. I don't know if you know. So anyway, that's the beginning of instruction, and this is near the end of his prayers to Nrsingadev, he uses the same word, udvijay. He says, naiva udvijay, I'm never, the word not eva means certainly not, or it could be the origin of the English word never, naiva, and never. Naiva udvijay, I'm never, not in the least disturbed, O Nrsingadev. Paradurataya Vaitaranyas, because I'm always with you, and you're across the river Vaitaranya, you're in the spiritual world, and my consciousness is always with you, so I'm completely peaceful. And anytime, any place I want, I can sing about your powerful, wonderful activities and dive and immerse my mind in an ocean of nectar. So I don't need any paraphernalia. All I need is a tongue and an ear, and I'm completely happy and free from all fear and in bliss. So where is there any trouble for me? But then he says something very interesting. Sholche, but I am lamenting. Why are you lamenting? Sholche tato vimukhachetas indriyata maya sagata banamudvana vimudhas. These fools and rascals, the materialists, who have turned away from you and are trying to enjoy this flickering maya sukhaya, illusory happiness, and burying themselves more deeply into suffering. I'm lamenting for them. Paradukka dukki. This is a fancy word for empathy. I'm feeling for them as a Vaishnav. And therefore, what is he going to do? He's not just going to know about it. He said, next verse, Prayana deva munayosava muktikama maunam chalandi vijanena paratanishta. For the most part, learned transcendentalists, they're concerned only with their own liberation. They go off to the secluded places in the mountains and the forest where there's no people. Vijane. Svavamukti kama. It's interesting because he talks about mukti as something that you lust after. In other words, it's a material thing. If you just want to be free of suffering yourself, that's your desire, then your bhakti is just, it's not a hoitaki. It's not selfless. The pure devotees, under the guidance of Lord Chaitanya, he says, I'm not interested in liberation. Janmani shure bhavata bhaktar hoiti. I don't want wealth, I don't want women, I don't want position, I don't want this, I don't want any of these usual things that people want. I don't even want liberation. Simply birth after birth, let me perform this ahoituki bhakti unto you. Unmotivated devotional service to you. Because that gives real happiness. That's the expression of love for Krishna that is the source of our happiness. Completely selfless. So that's what Prahlad Maharaj is saying, that I have that opportunity of simply chanting your glories and immersing my mind in an ocean of bliss and not even having the slightest care. But I want to give that to others, because that's part of what it means to be a real devotee. Is that, as was described right here, you see Atma Pamyena Sarvata. Perfect yogi, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings, both in happiness and distress. In other words, you're attuned to the state of where people are, and you see that even though there may be some little sense gratification people are enjoying, it's illusory. Is that the whole world is burning. I mean, look at this going on. The climate is collapsing. I'm feeling it personally. I can't even get my Kalamata olive oil anymore from Trader Joe's. The huge drought in Europe. There's nothing growing here, and it's coming here too. We're eating now because of last year's harvest, but it's completely dry here. Yeah, you know that. So how is there any security? Even if you're enjoying now, there's a nagging doubt. How long is it going to last? But if you could hook up with Krishna, or you help others to hook up with Krishna, you're hooking up to the inexhaustible ocean of happiness. And so that's what this verse is about: having compassion, having empathy for those who are suffering, and trying to give them some of your happiness that you're experiencing in touch with Krishna. So this is very much in our line here. This is a very important verse. Now Arjuna now is going to plead inability to practice, because and it's very important, because he's representing us. Arjuna vacha yoyam yogas tvaya prokta samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalat pastitam, chanchalat pastitim stiram. Arjuna said, O Madhusudan, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Purport. The system of mysticism described by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, beginning with the words Shuchau Deshe and ending it with Yogi Padama, is here being rejected by Arjuna out of a feeling of inability. It is not possible for an ordinary man to leave home and go to a secluded place in the mountains or jungles to practice yoga in this age of Kali. The present age is characterized by a bitter struggle for a life of short duration. People are not serious about self-realization even by simple practical means. And what to speak of this difficult yoga system which regulates the mode of living, the manner of sitting, selection of place, and detachment of the mind from material engagements. As a practical man, Arjuna thought it was impossible to follow this system of yoga, even though he was favorably endowed in many ways. He belonged to the royal family and was highly elevated in terms of numerous qualities. Sorry. Time out. He was a great warrior, he had great longevity, and above all, he was the most intimate friend of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 5,000 years ago, Arjuna had much better facilities than we do now, yet he refused to accept this system of yoga. In fact, we do not find any record in history of his practicing it at any time. Therefore, this system must be considered generally impossible in this age of Kali. Of course, it may be possible for some very few rare men, but for the people in general, it is an impossible proposal. If this were so 5,000 years ago, then what of the present day? Those who are imitating this yoga system in different so-called schools and societies, although complacent, are certainly wasting their time. They are completely in ignorance of the desired goal. So this is throwing a little cold water on the whole thing. You know, suddenly we find that, oh, okay, well, this is the reality. Okay, it's very, very attractive here. You'll enjoy unlimited happiness, and you'll be free from all misery. That's described in 2023. And you'll be able to see the Supersoul in everyone's heart. You know how wonderful that is. But to get to that point and wrestle the mind, I always give the example. Okay, just imagine you don't have the temples, you don't have the holy name, you don't have the deities, you don't have all the association and the books and the mantras. All you've got is your own mind and your senses you're working with. How could you do it? It's not possible, And so, yes, it's a bona fide system, but not for today, not for Kali Yuga. There's one verse, I think it's in the Bhagavatam, Krite Yadhyayato Vishnam, Tretayam Yajato Makai, Dwaparam Patichayam Kalotad Harikirtanat. That what was achieved in Krita Yuga, which is another word for Satya Yuga, by this method, Dhyayato, by meditation. In the Treta Yuga, by elaborate sacrifices. In the Dwapara Yuga, by very opulent deity worship. The same thing can be achieved in this age by Hari Kirtan, by Thankard. So we've been given that process. It's the great treasure. And the irony is, the amazing thing is that the destination given by Lord Chaitanya, that his process takes you to a position even beyond what is ordinarily achieved by meditation and opulent deity worship. Because there can't be anything beyond the relationship with God that's experienced by the gopis, and that's the ultimate. So therefore, I love this verse. In the 11th canto, it's described after Krishna Varnam Tisha Krishnam Sangopangasta Parshadam Yagyar Sankirtana Praya Yajanti Sumedasa. This is a verse described by one of the Yogendras about the different avatars that are coming. What's the avatar who's came in Kali Yuga? Well, of course, there's no Leela avatar, but there is a Yuga avatar. So he says, this is a verse describing Lord Chaitanya. Krishna Varnam means different things. It can mean he belongs to the Varna of Krishna. In other words, he is Krishna. Or he's always singing the syllables. Varna means syllables. Krishna, 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 hey. But he doesn't have the blackish complexion. Tvisha Akrishnam, golden complexion. Saanga Upaanga Astra Parshadam. And he's come along with his limbs, his very intimate associates. Upaangas, those who are a little less close to him, but with his weapons, and is with his eternal associates. So the weapons are the holy name and his beauty. He doesn't carry, he doesn't wield the chakra. When he was going to do that with Jagai Mara, he said, no, this age you're not doing that, you have to deliver them. So a few verses later, it's describing the glories of this Kali Yuga, the one just after where Lord Chaitanya appears, one every 1,000, 8 billion years, Day of Brahma. So he says, Kaling sabhajayantyaya gunagya sarabhaginaha yatra sankirtane naiva sarvasvarto abhilabhyate. Very nice verse. So he says, this Kali Yuga, this particular Kali Yuga is worshipped by those who are real Aryans and who can understand the real value of things. Why? Because in this age, again, just by Sankirtan, all of one's real ardent desires can be fulfilled. Sarva svarta. This word svarta is very important. It means the goal of the soul. Artha can mean just money, It's dharma, artha, kama, moksha. But no, this is svarta. This is your ultimate, most, ardent goal that you should have as a soul. That all of those could be fulfilled just by Sankirtan in this age. So it's a special dispensation, and if we take it seriously, then we can actually achieve perfection even in this age. I'm always reminded of that line from the Bible. You probably know this one, Michael. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. So the Kali Yuga, we're the last. We're still hanging around in Kali Yuga. We didn't go back to Godhead and all these other. But because it's so difficult, Krishna has made it a very easy process, practical process for us. And if we take it seriously, everything will be revealed. So, any comments on this verse?
Because even if I see in last, I'm 31. When I was growing up, it was still easier. We were following a lot of rituals. We would go to temple often. But as I see in last 10, 15 years, it's
less.
The same thing.
Yeah, the disease.
Yeah,
the disease from the West, the glare of the technological stuff is too attractive.
And I think kids who are born after the year 2000, they have no understanding.
Yeah.
They don't want to know.
Yeah. The funny thing is when Prabhupada came to America, because he wasn't able to start things in India. This is way back in the 60s, early 60s, and he found a fertile ground, and it was almost arranged by Krishna, just at the hippie area, the dropping acid, the God consciousness and the Beatles and the whole thing, So it was enough to plant the seed and get everything going. And once the kirtan was moving, then when worldwide, it was very successful. So you can see Krishna's hand there. But he made some success in India. And then in 70, he had temples. He had the LA temple, was founded, it's really growing. He went back to India. And he had these huge pandals, because he had the white dancing elephants. The Westerners who had taken up it so seriously, they shocked the Indians, because they were in the process of kind of putting it in the back. And here were the young, beautiful devotees.
The Indians were so used to it, they were bored almost.
Yeah. But
a lot of them are very embarrassed now, because in Vrindavan, you'll see people from Russia, from Europe, from US.
Yeah.
And people are like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And those little kids, they're like 5, 6 year old. They are like, they have remembered mantras by heart.
Yeah.
Talking in Sanskrit.
Yeah.
They are like fully devoted. Their families live there.
Yeah.
And like the neighbors and people in big cities, it's very hard for them to digest what's going on.
It's a challenge, and you should know, the majority of ISKCON is in India. Yeah. The majority of the books distributed there, the devotees are there, It's still powerful, and especially someone like Radhanath Swami, his disciples are of such great caliber, he's able to attract people from have PhDs and everything, So there's a lot has happened since then, but the point is that for the seed to be planted and for it to take hold, there has to be a receptivity and a powerful acharya like Srila Prabhupada could get the thing going, And it's all happening here, right in the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna is going to reject this process. Next verse is very famous, Chantalam Vimana Krishna. We'll read that one tomorrow. And Krishna says, yeah, it's probably, it's difficult, but it's possible with practice, And then Arjuna more or less says, okay, well, what if I fail? Am I going to be like a riven cloud? I've given up, my household life. I've gone to the forest. I'm sitting alone, but I can't do it. The mind is too crazy. Now I've failed as a yogi. I've failed as a kshatriya. What's my position? So Krishna says, don't worry, you'll take birth in a pure family, Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe, like that. But ultimately, Arjuna is not very sanguine. And he's representing us. Who can really do this? He says, okay, yogi nama visarvesha. One who's always thinking of me with great faith and worshiping me, he's the greatest yogi. And then the next verse, 7.1, Krishna starts back showing us how we can, step by step, begin to see him everywhere. The same thing. By seeing all of these are his energies. Boomer, apple, onono, vayo, kung, oh, okay. Raso, hom, apsukontiya. You drink something, you remember that verse, I'm the taste, You see the sun, oh, that's so this way you cultivate the knowledge.
And I think it happens naturally also, once you are in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
When you're drinking, when you're eating, when you're starting to drive, when you're starting to do anything, right? You just chant.
Yes, you always chant. Then you begin to see Krishna is really everywhere, and I'm Krishna's. As long as the whole idea is if you're not trying to exploit his energy, but you're trying to engage his energy, beginning with your own body, mind, words, everything, then you begin to see, well, it is all his energy. And like this temple, and then we'll have to end here. You can see everything is engaging is for Krishna. Right? I mean, whatever it is, the floor, the seats and everything. And there's a certain, when you think about it, oh, this is a sacred chair. This is not just an ordinary chair, And everything has this sacred quality to it. And it helps you remember and be very peaceful. This is how things are meant to be, And when things are in Krishna's service, they're in their natural position. This is the best, these are lucky fans. Of course they're not, we know they're not really as sentient, but it's like the spiritual world, and so and so we want to maintain it, keep it clean and like that. Okay, so we'll resume tomorrow. Thank you very much. All glories to Oh, wait a minute. Any questions on Zoom? No. Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
No. Thank you.
Haribol. See, they're out there. Check. Did you ever go on Dandavats? Dandavats.com?